Welcome to which day is it? Are we on day 4? Wow, it's going by so quickly, guys. Um, was briefly in my mind just going, what have we covered so far? Well, we started with arriving here, and then we entered into establishing safety. We went into reconnecting with the body, and today we go into internal listening. So I'm looking forward to going through that with you. We will jump to sharing my screen so you can look at the guide as we progress through it, and then we will get started right away. We've been here before, we know the routine. We'll go through the day's information, and then we will do the practice. We will talk about the integration question off screen and come back and recap, and then go over the bonuses that are contained within the PDF. And then you're off for the day again. If you're watching this on the recording, that's going to go a lot faster. All right. Today, we're returned to center. We went from arriving here, establishing safety, reconnecting to the body, and now we're at internal listening. The focus is differentiating noise from signal. Okay. So today we're focusing on listening, but not the way most people think of it. This is not about hearing answers or guidance or insight. It's about learning to distinguish between internal noise and actual signal. Most people have a near constant internal commentary. Thought to analyze, anticipate, explain, judge, and rehearse. Coulda, shoulda, woulda. What's coming tomorrow? So many, on and on and on. That activity can feel like listening, but it's actually the mind talking to itself. And we like to have conversation. Wow. Some of us, we really like to have a conversation. I know at one point, oh my gosh, I don't know if mine ever liked to just be quiet for a bit. She was quite the chatterbug. And it took a lot of practice and getting comfortable with the silence and being able to sit within that space without having your thoughts plague you. It's something that you can do. So, signal moves differently. It is slower, quieter, and more embodied. It doesn't argue for attention. It doesn't repeat itself urgently. It tends to register as a subtle shift in the body before it forms words. When people say they can't hear their inner guidance, it's because that's rarely because it isn't there. Sorry, when my brain was just glitching for a second, I saw the squirrel run by outside, and I tried not to let it pass me, but it did anyway, and here we are. All right, back on track. So when people say they can't hear their inner guidance, it's rarely because it isn't there. Okay. It's usually because the pace of attention is too fast. The volume's too loud. The attention is external, right? Like it's something's going on. That squirrel is a prime example. That squirrel pulled my attention external, right? Or you're going too fast. Maybe you're in urgency mode. Maybe we tend to occupy ourselves pretty quickly from one activity to the next activity to the next, and some of us it's worse than for others, of course. And then you have the signal being too loud too, right? If everything's loud around you, how can you hear what's going on inside of you, right? And I thought about that. I rarely have the TV on in my home in the evenings, and it's just quiet here. Like I sit in quiet most of my day, and I know when I used to not sit in quiet pretty much all of my day. And it's just interesting that shift. And I know for a lot of people that they are not comfortable in the silence, that it's really off-putting for them. So that's something to work on if it's difficult for you to be in the silence. Signal cannot compete with commentary. Once your brain gets in there and starts, you don't feel what's going on in your body anymore. You start to disregard any of the signals that you had. And even if you register them, you usually bat them away as something else. Today is not about forcing stillness or silencing the mind. It's about changing your relationship to thought. You're learning to let thought exist without following them, so something else has room to register. So, listening in this sense is not a dramatic experience, it's a practical skill. Over time, it becomes easier to tell the difference between something that is arising from habit and something that's coming from deeper alignment. I'm going to pause for a minute because I need to take a sip of my tea. Yes. All righty, I'm sorry. I had a tickle in my throat and I had to pause very quickly to deal with that. So one of the things I wanted to say before we go into the practice is that as you practice noticing how the body responds before the mind explains, right? You're going to start to notice things in your body like a softening or a tightening, right? That's the stuff that you're going to feel is that change. You maybe feel a tension. I've spoken before about how it can feel prickly, right? Like your body actually pushing against it. Those are clear signs that your body is telling you that something's not aligned and or not right for you. Over time, you make this a practice. This is going to turn into a habit, right? You may feel a sense of ease or you may feel resistance, right? That's another way to look at how information can show up in your body. Now, this doesn't mean that this is a conclusion. It's just they are indicators. They're indicators that you should listen to and go, okay, what else is coming up with this information? What else? What other information is aligning with this to confirm it or to not confirm it? Right? Because you want to make sure that you're coming from the space of the actual truth and not through, as we've talked about, the pinball machine that your brain is, where it's going through your trauma, your nervous system regulation, where it currently is at, your specific reality, your real world view, right? Everything is your perspective outward. So you have to think about that's how you're going to be recording the information. So ensuring that you're not overlaying trauma on to something, and that's why you're feeling the way that you are, in the sense of a smell. Let's say a smell reminds you of an experience that you had before, and it has nothing to do with that person. It's just the smell. That would be an opportunity for you where you would check in with your body and say, okay, I know why now. I do not like that cologne at all. But I don't know anything, like I don't know this person. So until I know this person, I'm going to save my judgment or my conclusion, right? My conclusion until after. All right. I just wanted to loop that back in because I feel like it's a significant thing to understand is the difference how your body processes those things and that you're to use it as an indicator, not a conclusion. All right. So we're going to do the practice, which as you can see on the other screen is the heart and body check-in. And what we're going to do is we're going to place one hand on our heart and one hand on our lower belly. Okay. And I want you to take a couple of breaths first because more often than not, we're not as regulated as we think we are. So take at least a breath or two, nice and slow, in through the nose, down into that bottom hand on your tummy, and then up into the upper hand on your chest. And then exhale longer than your inhale. Okay. And once you feel yourself kind of settle in, that's when you can start to ask yourself simple yes or no questions. Now, because you're muted, you can ask yourself whatever questions you want. And for those that are watching it on the recording as well, you can ask yourself whatever questions you want. They should be simple yes, no questions, though. And what I want you to notice is first the bodily response that you're experiencing before the thought jumps in. And they can be very subtle, but see if you can experience it. And it's not about interpreting it in any way. All you're doing is just registering the response. Okay, we're going to check in with the integration question, and I'm going to catch up with those who attended the live recording and see what came up for them when they asked simple yes, no question. Could you feel it in your body? It could have been a straightening, a grounded feeling, a push forward to indicate yes, an alignment, an expansion. It could have been a flutter, a fear, a tension, a tightening that could have been indicating that it was a no. Leaning back could be another indication. Okay, so I'm going to talk off screen and then we will come back and we will look at the integration question, which is what feels like signal rather than commentary. All right, so when we were off screen, we were talking about the integration question about what feels like signal rather than commentary. And we both had different reactions within our body for what is indicating a yes or what indicates a no. And I think that's situational dependent as well. I know I have stronger reactions to certain things, or, like it comes up differently in my body. For one person, it was felt in the stomach when it was a yes, and more in the chest, but not in the good way in the chest of a no. It wasn't a warm and fuzzy feeling. It was more of a, ooh, it's not good. And I know for my yeses, I tend to either go into alignment or I lean towards it. And it also feels just very grounded to me. And when my nose are definitely, it pushes me away from it, or I get like a kind of a prickly, repulsed feeling, depending on how great the misalignment is between me and that thing. All right, let's check out the bonuses for day 4, internal listening. The reflection prompt is, what does true stability feel like in my body? It's very calm, very steady, very peaceful. Then the bonus grounding practice is to sit or lie down with your spine supported, breathe into your lower belly, and repeat the word stability softly with each exhale. It's very, very calming to do that. And then the integration notes for that particular grounding practice is to record any memories, feelings, or resistance that came up during this practice. Because to just stay breathing into your lower belly and saying stability, it can conjure up some stuff from childhood. So allow yourself the support that is necessary for that. The centering statement is, I am anchored in divine stability. Or, as I said before, if you don't like that grounding statement, there's space for you to write one of your own. Tomorrow, we are doing emotional regulation without story. And that'll be day 5 of return to center, which means we'll be at the halfway mark. Quite exciting. And I hope that you share any comments or, any feedback at all for how you've been enjoying it thus far. And I'll see you tomorrow on day 5.